I bought this about an hour ago. It's a Fuji Cherry tape recorder. I've partially dismantled it, and I've partially got something working out of it, which was a complete surprise. It's one of these edge friction tape systems, which is very cheap and nasty. And I guess the whole thing must have been quite cheap back in the day. But it must be, I'm assuming, early 1960s, maybe even earlier. I don't know. Um, Surprisingly, found that the motor runs. That's rewind. Play. The speed controller is broken, but if you turn the speed controller all the way to the top, the motor kicks in. The spring that's supposed to apply tension is obviously snapped, but if you push it, you get this wheel turning, which is obviously then all that drags the tape through. It doesn't have a pinch roller. That's literally all it uses to pull the tape through. Obviously the motor sounds like it's got a dodgy bearing, but maybe that just needs a bit of oil in it and that'll sort that out. The amplifier is working, which you might be able to hear. Alright. We're suspecting that the capacitor on the motor is dry. Okay. Little quirky things were found that when you push it into record mode, it's supposed to, although it's not working at the moment, but it's supposed to rotate this bar magnet around, which it then uses to wipe the tape as it goes past. I've got most of the screws out, but I'm still having trouble getting this screw out here. As you can see, there's a bit of rust. Don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. But the amp's working, the motor's working. The friction disc's kind of working. So far, so good.
Well, but I'm gonna say no decent. Well, anything will do it. As far as all another. For this, we say. Oh.
Okay, so I've got it running reasonably well. I've cleaned the head. I've roughed up the idle wheel. I think it's called an idle wheel that's in there. I've oiled the spindles, and I've put a new tension spring in. I couldn't find one perfectly suitable, but it's using a spring out of a pen at the moment, and that appears to be enough. So
I would love to tell you what I think of Jesus, since I found in him a friend so strong and true.
right, so I'm going to guess that's recordings at least 50-year-old. But there's a bit of noise coming through on the amplifier, which maybe I can better demonstrate now. You hear that noise there? Now, although it's quite subtle on playback, it's more of an issue when you're recording. It seems to, because you have to have the recording at full, it says here, you have to have the recording at full volume, and you're getting that noise on the recordings. So I'm going to have a look inside now and see if I can find some capacitors that may be causing the issue. Okay, so from in here we can see the relative simplicity of it. This is the selector switch here, which operates both the switch and also mechanical items in here. Very straightforward. Obviously got the motor there with a little capacitor on, which I assume is supposed to get rid of the noise off the motor. That's one of my first place to look. But other things that might be slightly interesting, I don't know, is the fact that this speed controller is just a rheostat. variable resistor. Volume control's fairly standard. The amplifier board, I'm going to guess, is arranged as a couple of push-pulls. Very, very simple, very few components in it. I'm going to guess that the same amplifier circuit's used for both the recording and the speaker, just by flipping the inputs between the heads and the microphone, and the outputs between the heads and the speaker. Speaking of which, the speaker is very small, it's only 0.2 of a watt. Obviously you've got your selector switch here. What I've discovered is quite neat about this is if you put it into record mode and then put it into record mode, it records obviously. But when you put it into rewind mode, it automatically pushes the switch back like that, so that you don't accidentally wipe the tape as you are rewinding it, which wouldn't be very good. Right, okay, so let's see if we can try and quieten this thing down. Hang on, let's put it. Right, so there's the noise I'm trying to get rid of. You can hear when you slow down the motor that the noise changes. So I'm gonna, like I say, this is what's again suspected me that it's this capacitor here that maybe, well, despite some of the capacitors being worse for wear, I've changed them. It hasn't really made a great deal of difference. But I'm going to do a recording now. So put that to record. Got the microphone. Here we go. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
Well, I'm going to have to say that actually does sound a lot clearer than a previous recording I did, so maybe things are quite successful. I'll do another test. Where are we? Flip it to record. This is another test. Is the sound better this time? Now you'll notice that when I put it into reverse, it pushes the record off, which is quite a good idea. Well,
1 2 3. This is another test. Is the sound better this time?
you know something? I'm very happy with that. That'll do. The Fuji Cherry 4 transistor, none of your 3 transistor rubbish, tape recorder.